welcome to this new video for my channel, The Mental Traveler. I'm George R.R. and today I'm going to be reviewing the A Song of Ice and Fire novels, which are written by American author George R.R. Martin. First one was published in 1996, and so far 5 out of the 7 books of the series have been published. And I'm quite excited to be doing this video because now, after years of countless rereads, I'm finally able to talk about them here. Back in 2012, HBO began adapting the series into a TV show. It has become one of the most acclaimed shows out there by the critics, and it has a large fan base. And I think it will have a total of 8 seasons. At the moment, its 7th season has just ended. It has already surpassed the events that are shown in the published books. The show has many famous actors, among them Sean Bean, Diana Rigg, Charles Dance, Stephen Delane, Jonathan Pryce, Lena Headey, Anton Lesser, Michelle Farley, Sophie Turner, Emilia Clarke, Maisie Williams, Kit Harington, Peter Dinklage, Nicholas Coster-Waldau, Natalie Dormer, Gwendolyn Christie, Liam Cunningham, Rory McCann, among many, many more. And now, before I begin, let me just say that this will be a video without spoilers up until its last section, where I begin to tell you my experiences with A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones. The series is composed of 7 books, and their titles are A Game of Thrones, A Clash of Kings, A Storm of Swords, A Feast for Crows, A Dance with Dragons, The Winds of Winter, and A Dream of Spring. At the moment, only the first 5 have been published. Set in the fictional continents of Essos and Westeros, also known as the Seven Kingdoms, the A Song of Ice and Fire story was in part inspired by the War of the Roses. Thus, a large part of the plot deals with several houses fighting for power, thus winning the right to sit on the Iron Throne. So in a way, these novels are highly political, but there are also several elements of fantasy to them, from dragons and monsters and magic to these zombie-like creatures that want to destroy humankind. But another aspect of these books is that they are highly personal, meaning that we really get to know who the characters are. They feel real. This may be in part because they're told from the first-person point of view, but also because they go through these amazing journeys, and while you may like someone at the start, you may hate them at the end, or the other way around. And this is because the characters undergo a really believable and well-constructed character development. A Song of Ice and Fire is a series which is popular in part because the author is not afraid to kill off its protagonists. But rather than doing this for shock value, one gets why it's happening. It's a reflection of real life and how life is not always fair. I give each book a 5 out of 5 stars and highly recommend them to everyone who enjoys politics, history, romance, fantasy, intrigues. My favorite book is the second one, A Clash of Kings, but I believe many prefer the third one, A Storm of Swords. But overall, some of the reasons why I love this series is because of the amount of world building. You really get to feel like you're living inside this world. And despite its dozens of characters and plot lines and flashbacks, I've always found them really easy to read. Some have compared A Song of Ice and Fire to The Lord of the Rings, and I like both of them, so I don't want to compare them myself. The only things I could say that I prefer in George R.R. Martin's works rather than in Tolkien's is that the writing style, I find it a bit easier with the former. I also feel I can relate a bit more to the characters from Westeros than with those of Middle-earth, because in A Song of Ice and Fire the characters are grey. They have both good and bad qualities to them, whereas in The Lord of the Rings this distinction is less clear, making them more black and white. So I can really empathize and connect with characters that feel more human, because humans are more complex, I think, than just being black or white. Still, I would like to give a mini review of each of the books. For example, I like this one because it's the introduction to everything, and after rereading the other books and you come back to this one, kind of start to see the connections and the subtle hints the author is putting in writing and foreshadowing of later events. Also, the TV adaptation, it's not called A Song of Ice and Fire, it's called Game of Thrones, like this book. As I said a few moments ago, this is my favorite book out of all 5, and that is because it has many interactions between my 2 favorite characters of this series, but more of that in the next section. This one is quite good. Here's where I started to like certain characters I didn't before. It has some really shocking moments as well. It's quite long, and that helps to really you inside that world because it's so detailed. This is the 4th book, and along with the 5th one, they sort of ran parallel, only that the 4th one covers the storylines of certain characters, and the 5th one deals with the other characters that were left out. Anyways, I think that in the 4th one you can find some of the author's most beautiful passages, really poetic stuff in there. This one is good, but since I don't really care that much for the character storylines that are taking place in this one, I guess it's my least favorite. But we do get to visit a lot of places in Essos, the neighboring continent to the Seven Kingdoms, so that's like a cool trip to the east. That's a good quality to this one. This is a 6th book and it has not been published, but George R.R. Martin has released some sample chapters, which gives us an idea of what's going to happen. And release date has not yet been announced. So far, this is meant to be the last book, and while nothing really is known for certain about it, apart from the spoilers of the TV show, I guess we can imagine that this one will see the conclusion to everything, and a lot of the characters will meet up again. We'll see who sits in the Iron Throne, if there is an Iron Throne in the end. This is going to be the part of the video with spoilers, so if you have not read the books and seen the 7 seasons of the show, take caution. Okay, so my experience with Song of Ice and Fire began back in 2011 when I was about to turn 18. I was looking up in Wikipedia Sean Bean upcoming projects, and I saw that he was going to start in this TV series that had a lot of fantasy elements to it. Since I've always loved fantasy and period dramas and historical events, well, I thought I should check it out. I bought the 5 published books, and the first season of the show was already airing, so I was also watching it as I read along, and since I've never minded spoilers, I didn't care to know what was going to happen later on. Because I loved it, I ended up becoming a big Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire fan. I even made a fool of myself on this internet program called Thronecast. It was kind of a high quality program because it interviewed actors from the show, and there was this fan contest, so I sent a video of me acting one of the scenes from the 4th book. It's an awful video. I can't even watch it. It appeared during the weekend when the 6th episode of the 2nd season was released. My last year of high school, me and my best friend used to name each of our classmates like one of the characters from the book, and so we could sort of like talk in codes like that about people in front of them without them knowing what we were referring to, and it was hilarious. We still sometimes say stuff like that. Also, back in college, I made a pre-thesis about the relationship and differences between the Stark sisters, Sansa and Arya. And also, it's sort of funny to remember that some of my friends used to mock the show because I became one of the early fans, at least in my city, and they used to say like, that looks so boring and stuff, and now when it's become a worldwide phenomenon, they just can't believe how popular it got. Still, I don't really want to talk about the HB adaptation because I loathe it. I hate it with all my guts. I saw the first 3 seasons and I liked them, but in the middle of the 4th one I just had to stop. Unfortunately, I still know what's going on because I follow a lot of people on Tumblr who do watch the show, and since I don't mind spoilers, I don't watch the show, but I do sort of end up learning what's going on. It's just getting worse and worse. It hasn't only deviated from the story that I love so much, it's become unrecognizable because it's changing it for the worse, but it has also done serious damage to all of the characters. Thankfully, people weren't that satisfied with the 7th season. Some of the reasons why I also hate the show is because it degrades women, and the producers seem to think the only way women can be strong is if they are tomboys or if they will power through their sexuality. So yeah, David Benioff and Dan Weiss just do not get women, nor do they seem to be interested in changing this. But still, the main reason why I hate this show is because it has changed beyond recognition my favorite characters, Sansa Stark and Sandor Clegane. They've turned him into this sort of big, funny, dirty joke, ignores Sansa's storyline, and they toss it aside and they put her into the storyline of another character who suffers unbelievable stuff, making her into this sort of cold, hollow woman. And talking about more pleasant subjects, the character that I love the most in A Song of Ice and Fire is Sansa Stark. I'm also a big SanSan shipper, meaning that I want Sansa Stark and Sandor Clegane to one day meet up, solve the unresolved stuff between them, and end up together. Of course, the show has also ignored this storyline, so yeah. Anyways, talking about Sansa, the main reason why I ship it is because Sansa ships it. If you read the books and analyze her chapters, you'll see that she has chosen Sandor Clegane among all the other men that she has ever known, and there is no doubt that he's very taken in with her. And the reasons why I love Sansa Stark so much is because right from the start I identified with her. I love how feminine and girly she is. She's not afraid to be vulnerable or emotional, and yet she's a strong, intelligent woman who learns quickly, who never stops using her courtesy as an armor, which means that she doesn't really ever lose hold of her true self amidst all the chaos she's living in. I love how she's good despite everything that has gone on with her. She still retains some of the childish notions she had from when she was little, which makes her determined to find beauty in the world and not lose hope. She's kind and loyal and clever. Anyways, my love for SanSan has brought many good things to my life. For example, I discovered that in the Westeros.org website there were these threads analyzing Sansa's character and her development, as well as her connection to Sandor Clegane, called From Pawn to Player, Rethinking Sansa and Rereading Sansa. I learned a lot from reading all of it and from contributing to it. It was the first time that I was actively participating in a fandom. I've met a lot of good friends over the years because of that, and my love for SanSan has also helped me achieve one of my lifetime dreams. I've always wanted to be a writer, and when I discovered that there were SanSan fanfics out there, I read them all, and then there was a time when I wanted to write my own, so I've written 2 SanSan fanfics, and I just love the experience of committing myself to thinking up of something, discovering what my writing process was like, and then sharing it with other people that also love the characters that I was writing about. I think fanfiction is a great exercise for aspiring writers. Maybe not everyone will agree with me. I think George R.R. Martin doesn't approve of fanfiction, but I think it's an ode to the author if people write stuff about his stories. And in the SanSan fandom, we're quite committed to these characters. But yeah, anyways, the SanSan fanfiction fandom is so big that there's seriously a fanfic out there for everyone regarding Sansa and Sandor in every possible scenario you can think of. I know I haven't said that much about Sandor Clegane, and I think I should before this video ends. One of the reasons why I like him is because there's such a Beauty and the Beast vibe to his story with Sansa, and I just love his storyline. How this young boy who dreamed of knights got hurt by one of them, and that turned him into this mean cynic, and then there comes along this beautiful young girl who he can recognize has similar traits to the boy he once was, and he's angry by this and yet intrigued, and he wants to sort of shake her into realizing that real life isn't a fairy tale, and yet in the end she teaches him more than he teaches her, and he ends up changing for the better due to her. I am 100% positive that in the books they will meet again. I hope they end up together, but even if they don't, they will meet again, and they will talk about all the unresolved issues between them. Since the HBO adaptation has completely murdered the SanSan storyline, I don't know if they will end up meeting in the show or not in the last season, but even if they don't, I know that in the book they will, and that's such a big comfort for me. And even if they didn't end up meeting again, they've had such an impact on each other's lives that that's just a testament to how important they are to each other. Oh, and I've also made a fan-made video of one of my fanfictions. All of this has also brought me into exploring the world of editing videos. And finally, I am a journalist, and last year I had the opportunity to go to a press conference where George R.R. Martin was being interviewed. So of course I couldn't miss my opportunity, and I asked him about Sansa and Sandor, and I'm going to post a link to that glorious moment in the description box below. And as a side note, I just loved how I was the only one there who asked him something that proved that I had not only read the books but analyzed them thoroughly. But yeah, anyways, at the moment there are still 2 more books to be published, as I mentioned earlier. When they are released, I shall of course read them and review them. Hopefully number 6 will come out soon. But yeah, for the moment I believe this is all I have to say about A Song of Ice and Fire. Thank you very much for watching this video, and please let me know what you think of it. If you agree or disagree with anything I said, because I would love to discuss this series with you. In the description box below you can find, as I said, a link to my question to George R.R. Martin, a link to the series Goodreads page, and a link to the show's IMDb page. Oh, and also a link to the From Pawn to Player, Rethinking, Rereading Sansa site, because it grew to the extent where people had to actually make a website out of all the material we came up with. I'm Carrera, the Mental Traveler. I wish you a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. Goodbye!